What's up, guys? Welcome to the 49ers versus Cardinals post-game show. And I have a very special guest to join me once again, Kobe Ransom. How you doing today, Kobe?
Just got back from work, but I did watch the game. It was another L. Niners are now 2-3. Everyone's having a terrible time. But Trey Lance started his first game. So we have that to talk about, at least.
Yep.
Kind of.
Well, speaking of Trey Lance, what was your overall evaluation of Trey Lance's first start?
There was some bad, and there was some good, and there was some meh, as you probably expected for a rookie playing his first, starting his first game. Seemed to be a heavy focus on the quarterback runs. He had 16 rushes? Yeah, 16 rushes, 89 yards. So big heavy emphasis on that. As far as passing the ball, had the interception on his first drive, which he had Travis Benjamin, but he overshot him a little bit. So, inaccurate throw there. Wasn't his last inaccurate throw of the game. He had some issues with accuracy in that game, but that's to be expected a little bit. And we saw it in the training camp. We knew it was a thing coming in to the season. So it's not too surprising at this point, but obviously you wanted to get better. As far as he didn't get a lot of help in this game. A lot of holding calls in the second half. Some drop passes, especially that third down. He threw obviously a wobbly pass, but who cares? On the money to a wide open receiver, and Sanu just drops it. So that things like that didn't really help. But it felt like this team, obviously was not used to playing with him out there. A lot of holding calls were on plays where he scrambled out of the pocket, and they just didn't really know how to block when he is obviously extending plays. And then even when he did extend plays, it felt like guys still weren't getting open down the field, where you expect maybe some guys to break free, like quarterbacks seem to do when they play against the Niners, and they extend plays and there's guys wide open down the field, and we saw that a couple of times in this game from Kyler Murray. But that wasn't happening for Trey Lance, so maybe some issues in the scramble drill. These guys aren't really used to playing with a guy who extends plays that long. If he used to playing with guys like Jimmy Garoppolo, Nick Mullins, C.J. Beathard, those kind of guys. So it's something to adjust, for them. But overall, this is something to build on going forward. It wasn't perfect, but it was never going to be perfect. Anyone who thought it was going to be perfect, were just fooling themselves. But I think the best way to sum it up is to say what Kyle said in the post-game presser, was that you played good enough for the 49ers to win the game. And that's essentially what it was. You played good enough for them to win, but they did not. A lot of things went into that, but Trey Lance was not the problem in this game, which was a good thing for a rookie playing his, starting his first game.
Yep. With Trey Lance, there was a lot of good and there was also a lot of bad. I mean, obviously in the first drive, he did throw an interception. I mean, he did move up in the pocket, but he just slightly overthrew Travis Benjamin, I think, on that play. Yeah, he slightly overthrew Travis Benjamin. But there was a lot of good from Trey Lance, right? With Jimmy Garoppolo, where you can extend some plays. Trey Lance is scrambling out of the pocket. He is trying to make plays. Receivers just weren't getting open. And also with Trey Lance, I remember on one specific play, there was pressure, and instead of throwing the check down to Elijah Mitchell, he finds Deebo Samuel slanting across the field, and he finds Deebo Samuel open. Those are things that you can do with Trey Lance that you can't do with Jimmy Garoppolo. Because Jimmy Garoppolo is just going to throw it to Elijah Mitchell. He's not going to be able to find Deebo Samuel slanting right down the field. No, that's something that Trey Lance can do. Now, I definitely do think Trey Lance will get better if the Niners do make him the permanent starter for the rest of the season. But Trey Lance wasn't really the reason that the Niners lost this game. He wasn't, which is a good thing, especially like you said for his first NFL start. So I think there was a lot of up, there was a lot of downs, but overall, I think Trey Lance had a good to okay performance tonight.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, there's him finding his check down, which he even acknowledged himself was something he needed to work on, and that needs to get better. There's some hits you probably didn't need to take, or there's some scrambles that could have been avoided. Maybe some plays getting made if he had, hit his check down, or be able to go through, more of his reads down the field, or just I mean, that's the one area where Garoppolo is better than Trey Lance right now. Some of that's because Jimmy Garoppolo can't rely on his legs in that way,
Yeah.
so he will find his check down when he has to get, when there's pressure, when he needs to get the ball out. Trey is, I mean, when you have the athletic ability that Trey has, you can't really blame him too much for trying to make plays down the field and trying to extend plays as the best he can. But you'd like them to get a little better. Just find guys that that are open in the flat or just out. Just a little dump off here and there. Just your check downs and find those guys. What's up, man? And overall, that would help the offense kind of keep things moving. But they just didn't get a whole lot of help from the offensive line in this game. That really set them back, especially in that second half. Just the fact that there were so many 1st and 20s that they had to deal with, and that really just kills your script or really just any kind of momentum you might have had. There were some plays where Trey made a play, and they had to go and he had to
Yep.
bring it back because of a holding call. And you imagine that'll get cleaned up with time as they get used to playing with Trey. And I just feel like this team right now is not used to playing with him out there, which is obvious because he hasn't been getting the reps with the first team. But a lot to build on. A lot to build on. His ability to extend plays is just something that the Niners have not had, and it was nice to see it for once. Just from a quarterback that's on the good guys, and just a lot that you can build on from this game. And we'll get into whether or not he should be starting the rest of the season, but for people who are saying they would have won this game with Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm just not too sure about that. There was the offensive line. If Jimmy was back there,
Yeah.
Jimmy would have stood no chance. The offensive line had maybe their worst game of the season. McGlinchey will get to him next. Just not a good game. Brunskill either. Even Mack at times. Even Trent Williams had some holding calls on him, having to deal with Chandler Jones over there. But they put a lot on Trey's plate. They put a whole lot on Trey's plate. 16 rushes, 29 pass attempts.
29 pass attempts, 16 carries for 89 yards. They made him throw 29.
So that's 45 plays with the ball in his hand out of, let me see, I can pull it up here. 59 plays. So 45 of the 59 plays were, started in Trey Lance's hands. So, a lot of his plate. I think he handled it the best he could for a guy making his first start, and you just hope that he builds on this going forward.
Yep. And like you mentioned, right, the offensive line wasn't playing that good. I mean, even Trent Williams got worked on some plays, and he also got called for some holding calls, which led to many 1st and 20s. And, and some of those plays really frustrated me because Trey Lance, he would run out of the pocket and he would get a first down, something like that. And then it would just get called back right away because there's a holding or some type of penalty on the offense. And I'm just like, come on, right? Trey Lance did all he could, but at the end of the day, he tried to put us in the best situation that he could to win the football game, and we just couldn't get it done. Too many penalties, too many things that we have to fix. But overall, I think there's a lot of good in this game. But you brought up offensive line. And one guy who did not play good in the offensive line is Mike McGlinchey. Mike McGlinchey, bro. Pass blocking. You got thrown on your butt by JJ Watt play after play after play. And I remember in the 4th quarter, I remember one specific play where they moved Chandler Jones to the right side because they knew you were the worst offensive lineman on that team on today. At least you were the worst offensive lineman today. And they put Chandler Jones on the right side and they put JJ Watt on the left side for, I think, one play or a couple of plays. I think they put Chandler Jones on the right side and you were getting bodied by him also. Mike McGlinchey, you didn't get any better during the offseason in pass blocking. You just didn't. I don't know what you did in the offseason, but you did not get better at all in the pass game. You got bodied by J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones. And he got called for so many holding penalties. Pretty much every time, at least one, every drive, he got called for at least one, if not 2 holding calls. Like, what did you work on all offseason? Did you not work on your pass blocking? I mean, I just got frustrated with McGlinchey today. And that right side is a liability. It just is. With Jimmy Garoppolo behind that offensive line, he would have gotten killed. He would have gotten killed behind the offensive line. At least with Trey, he's mobile so he can move and he could try to extend plays. But if Jimmy Garoppolo is playing today, he would have gotten killed behind that offensive line.
Yeah, and it's not just pass blocking; it's also run blocking as well. There were some plays that got blown up when they tried to run to the right side. It's just that is the weakness of the line, and is as clear as day. And it's just played a part in this game. And, going forward, that's just how. And, for the most part, that's the part of the game where Jimmy Garoppolo kind of makes up for because he does get the ball out quick most of the time. He's not a guy who holds on to the ball because he can't, rely on his legs to extend plays. So it makes those guys look a little better sometimes because they don't have to block for as long. But as you can see, when you have Trey out there, he's a guy who's able to extend plays and you have to hold your blocks for longer when you have a guy like that. Those guys don't look too good. And we're seeing, just this team is built, behind a running game and a quick passing game. And right now they haven't been able to do that really in any of these games outside of, the first week. And it's not helping this offensive line. This is not how they play. It's not how they operate. It's not what they were built or designed to do. And, really, this is just the part where I just like this roster is kind of stuck in between contending and developing, and they lost a lot of contending pieces.
Yeah.
They lost, Verrett, and they lost Mostert, and this team just right now isn't built to really help Trey. It feels like, and there's a lot of guys who I don't know, like even someone had a tweet today where it's like, use check and like, is he a good, guy to have in the Trey Lance offense? Where it's like it feels like he's not, like he can't really be utilized the way you would utilize him. When you have Trey out there, especially when you run the ball with Trey that many times like that. I understand you want to have like 10 blockers and, just one runner, and then you get extra blocker when you quarterback run. But at the same time, it's just like, they're more designed for the outside zone, get the ball to the edge, and they're running a lot of power in this game. And I don't know, offense is a mess. I really have no idea what direction this team's even going in.
Kyle Shanahan, I don't know what type of game plan you called. Yeah, this game plan we're gonna work on Trey Lance's strength. So the only strength that you pretty much worked on.
That's a good point from a Barry Baller. Is right? Just like the offense looked outside of some Trey Lance runs.
Draws, that's pretty much it. Like that's
outside of some quarterback runs, the offense looked about the exact same as it does with Jimmy, as far as like the play calling and the route concepts they have. Like there was no and obviously we run that much, they're gonna stack the box. So why is there? And I understand the O-line was leaky in this game, very much so, but there was no play action deep shots that have been dialed up. Either, and I guess we'll see when the film comes out, the coach's film, if they were there and Trey didn't throw it, but I have a hard time believing that because Trey, I'm assuming, is a guy who wants to take those shots when they're there. But yeah, and that was surprising. I thought maybe there would be some shot plays in this game. Use Trey's arm. He has a big arm, and
he does.
For the most part, it was about the same as you see with a Jimmy offense, except for the fact that they were able to run quarterback power, and it was pretty much
the same offense. It just was outside of the QB draws. It was the same offense. And one thing that pissed me off about the QB draws is that we ran it so much that I'm surprised Trey didn't get hurt, because some of those plays, Trey's helmet came off and Trey's trying to get those extra yards. If you keep running these QB draws, if he starts for that season, you keep running these QB draws, that gives him a higher chance of getting injured. We don't want Trey to get injured in his rookie season. We don't want him to get injured. You keep running that many QB draws, there's so much more you could have done in this game. He has a way bigger arm than Jimmy Garoppolo. You could have thrown the ball. You could have ran more play action. You could have done way more than what you did. The only different thing that you pretty much changed this game was add the QB draws. Otherwise, everything else looked like the same offense when Jimmy Garoppolo was playing. When Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback and when he does play.
Yeah, and the QB draws it's a really tough thing because at one on one side of the spectrum is it was working. He got 5.6 yards per carry, but on the other side, this is your quarterback. In this day and age, you want to protect him as much as possible, and making him have to take all these hits just feels just unnecessary. And obviously, you want this guy to last for you as long as possible. And as Maranta says there, that's how you you get hurt if you we see what happened to Cam when Cam ran that much and his body broke down over the years. This is a long-term investment. You want this guy to be able to last for years and years. And I understand using it occasionally, but 16 runs, he's not a running back. I know we make fun of Lamar Jackson and that stuff, and I know Lamar's a different kind of runner. Lamar is very slippery. Trey Lance is a physical guy. He's a bigger guy. He runs.
And you even saw it today. Saw it today. He's lowering a shoulder. He's a physical runner. He's
he doesn't slide.
Yeah, he
Like
does.
he always goes forward. He's never sliding and giving
He
himself
does
up.
slide. He did slide sometimes today, but right. But the thing is, like the difference between Lamar is like Lamar, he's shifty, he's elusive, right? He's
Yeah.
not. He's not one of those guys that plays. He's a running back, but he's not a physical. He's not. He plays like a running back. That's what I mean. He plays like a running back, but he's not one of those guys that is physical like Lance is. He's
Yeah.
shifty. He's elusive. He's gonna slide. He's gonna do all that. Lance is physical. He's a physical runner. He's not afraid to lower his shoulder. I mean, like Emerald said, he might get injured by doing that if they do start for the rest of the season. Because I mean, it's risky to do that. Because especially with the type of runner that Trey Lance is, he's physical. He's not. If you do run these QB draws more in the next couple of games, he's a physical runner. He's not shifty. He's not elusive. He's not that type of guy. He's not Lamar. There's only one
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson in the NFL right now. There's no other. Josh Allen isn't Lamar Jackson. Mahomes doesn't run like Lamar Jackson. There's only one Lamar Jackson in the league.
And like I just thought that would be part of his development is having him be safer and obviously conserve and be careful with his body. But no, I mean when Kyle you're gonna call it 16 design runs. I mean, I mean obviously you don't care either. As far as him keeping himself safe. So I guess that just isn't something they're concerned with. I worry about that going forward, but I guess we'll see. They might not do that again. Maybe that was just part of the game plan. They thought it would work, and for the most part, it kind of did, except for at times. But
Yeah.
I just prefer that my quarterback, that I invested a lot of picks into, isn't being just, having to take that many hits in the game. Like, you want to protect him more than that, and they didn't really make that much of a focal point in this game. But it's how he calls it. We know that Trey's got it in his bag. He was a good runner as a quarterback in college. So maybe that's something Kyle wanted to use a lot too here in the NFL. So we'll see how that plays out going forward. But yeah, I wasn't a whole fan of him running that many times, and it just felt predictable too.
Yeah, it did. Every time pretty much Lance would either fake the handoff, he would just run. I'm just like, it's predictable. The thing is, like, the Cardinals' defensive line has Chandler Jones and JJ Watt. Whatever side that you choose to run and run the QB John, you're gonna get met by JJ Watt or Chandler Jones. Like it wasn't necessarily the smartest thing to do. It worked sometimes, but it didn't work all the time. And you kept going back to it. And like, did you not realize with RG3 when you had RG3, right? Like, cause you were the offensive coordinator when RG3 was the quarterback in Washington. He got hurt. Like, why do you want the play call that you're running right now with the QB Josh? He's gonna get hurt and he's gonna meet the same fate that RG3 did. Like, why do you want that to happen to Lance? And especially Lance is a physical runner, so like that gives him a higher chance of him getting injured. Like I said before.
Yeah, it just feels very careless, and maybe that's harsh to say, and maybe it's one of those things where it's like a bite. Like when it's working, you hate it. I mean, when it's working, you love it. When it doesn't work, you hate it. But I mean, this is your quarterback, and I would like them to be just a bit more careful about how they use him. And it's not like he can't throw; he can. So you can call pass plays with him. And the running backs, I mean, Trey had 16 rushes, but the running backs only had. I can pull up the numbers here.
Yeah, I think Trey have more rushes than
He had more rushes than
most
everybody
running
else.
backs. Yeah.
Juszczyk had the quarterback sneak, which was a terrible play call in my opinion.
Okay, yes, yeah, you said it. Okay, what was that, Kyle? Like, please, 4th and 1. That was the stupidest play call ever.
The thing is,
stupid.
they already
That
used
was a
it
stupid
once.
play call. No, even like Juice comes in, like the linebacker even saw it, right? The linebacker Jordan Hicks saw it. Juice is coming in. He takes the snap. They see him, and Juice they blew that up because they saw it. They saw that play from a mile away. Jordan Hicks and that defense saw it from a mile away. What Kyle Shanahan drew up for that play. What Kyle Shanahan ran for that play. Like they blew that up. They pretty much knew right when they saw Juice line up under center.
It's almost like Kyle is running out of tricks. That's what it feels like. Like Kyle's running out of tricks. Like we saw that already in the Packer game. We saw him use that play, and it worked there. But now you put it on tape. So next time you do it, teams are going to be a little more wary of it and be more alert when it happens. And we saw that Cardinals sniffed it out, and it's that's more like a third down play call to me. It's like one where it's 3rd and 1. we know if you don't get it, we got one more play call we can use, and that's maybe use it there. But fourth down, I said this last week. It's like you cut down your options. Like in a play like that, why not get Lance out on the edge and give yourself more options? Like Lance can throw it or Lance can run it,
Yeah.
And when you give it to a, and I guess that's the area where Kyle would like to call a quarterback sneak with Jimmy, and they likely would have got it because Jimmy is very good at those. But
in fact, I think that's the only thing that he learned when he was in New England from Brady. I'm pretty sure that's pretty much the only thing that he learned from Brady in his time in New England, because pretty much everything else that Brady does, Jimmy Garoppolo is really not that good at outside of the QB sneak.
But like you don't have Jimmy in this game, so why not go to something else that works for your quarterback that you have in the game, which would be maybe like just a bootleg, or heck, I mean, as much as we had issues with him calling that many quarterback runs, I would rather him run the quarterback power there with Trey Lance than run the quarterback sneak with Kyle Juszczyk. So this offense leaves a lot to be desired. I don't know, why it feels so bland and it just lacks creativity, and offenses feels really hard. Mm-hmm. And like Korean Niner says here,
they pretty much used him like Cam was used in Carolina.
We saw what happened to
Cam Newton, how he was used in Carolina. That's how Kyle is using Lance.
Yeah. But, I mean, it really does feel like Kyle's offense is, as another company had, feels like it is figured out. Like,
it does.
It does feel like teams are not surprised and teams aren't, like, scratching their heads trying to figure out what's going on anymore. Like, they have a good feel for what he wants to do on offense. And some of that may be because, obviously, there's a lot more of Kyle's offense on film now. I mean, at this point, teams have seen everything. So now you just got to be better than other teams. And the way Kyle is calling these plays – teams are sniffing them out, and when you sniff out play calls that don't give you a lot of options, in the first place, it really makes it hard. And without the run game for people to have to worry about, it's making things really rough as well. And the run game in this game was just Trey Lance. Really, it's like, all right, Trey, time to run the ball, and you're running it. And it really is. I really didn't like him running that much. I really don't. And I don't know. I think a lot of people might be on that boat, but. I really was not a fan of Kyle running Trey that many times in the game, because you're just like making him so it's acceptable to so many hits, and it's like, isn't the whole point trying to protect your guy? Like, I understand making a play when it has to be there, but yeah. And then there really wasn't much of a game plan around the running backs. It felt like they ran the ball a little bit. How much of that had to do with
Lance got more carries than Elijah Mitchell, Deebo Samuel, Trey Sermon, and Kyle Juszczyk combined.
Yeah.
Like, that should not happen. That's if you're making Trey Lance run more than the running backs. That's why there's running backs in the NFL, Kyle. That's why there's running backs. Like, your quarterback isn't your running back. That's why there's a running back position in football. Use him.
Yeah.
And like, even did you not see like Lance's mom? Lance's mom, every time they show Lance's parents, like Lance's mom's like, "Oh my god, like my son."
I know.
Like,
I mean,
like how you should not. You should not.
Trey's gonna have the ice up after this game.
Mom. Like, you just should.
Trey's gonna be in the ice tub for a while. He got beat up in this game. The man, he took a lot of hits today, and it's just like, do you really want your quarterback going through that many hits? Just no concern. Like, I understand, he's a big bodied guy, built. He's a runner. He's a physical guy, but at the same time, I just don't want my quarterback taking that many hits. Like, that's my quarterback after all.
That's my quarterback. Did you not, Kyle? Did you not hear what Terrell Owens said? Like, did you not hear what Terrell Owens said? That's my
quarterback, man.
That's my.
You treat him differently.
Yeah, you got to protect your quarterback, Kyle. You got to protect your quarterback. I get it. I understand that Trey Lance can run, right? But making him have more carries than all your running backs and all the run, Deebo, Trey, Elijah Mitchell, Kyle Juszczyk, making them have less carries than Trey Lance when Trey Lance is 16, and like, that just should not happen. You have to protect your quarterback. We already know what happens with Jimmy. The reason we brought in Trey Lance is because Jimmy's not reliable. He gets hurt. Like, why do you want the same thing to happen to Lance? Which, if he has a potential injury and if he gets hurt, if you keep running these QB draws, then the same thing's gonna happen to Lance. What happens to Jimmy Garoppolo? Or not? I get it. It's not the same run design. It's not a QB draw. but Jimmy gets hurt. That's why you brought in Lance. If you keep running the same system, the same game plan that you're running right now, it's a high chance that Lance gets hurt. It just is.
Yeah. And I mean, it's one thing if it's like read options, like he gets to the edge and he can protect himself, with the sideline or whatever. Like
Yep.
you're running him right up the middle, like where he has to get hit by linebackers and defensive linemen, and safety's coming up with like a head of steam, it's like ready to lay the boom. And like these players aren't gonna. It's not like Lance slides; like he kind of dives forward most of the time.
Yeah, he goes like bomb. Yeah.
Yeah, so like he takes some hits, and I was like. After a while, I was just hoping he got up every time. I was like, "Oh God, like please tell me he gets up from this." It's like, okay, he's good. And it's like, if I gotta watch that for the rest of the season, like I'm just like, oh, Kyle, please protect this
even
guy.
that one play.
Like, it's one thing in the pocket, but like you're calling these plays.
Even the end zone, right? Like obviously, I know that wasn't a QB run, but the end zone play where he's lowering his helmet, like I'm surprised Trey Lance didn't have a concussion that play. Like I
gotta watch that back because I gotta watch that play back a couple of times. I wasn't sure if he could have gotten the ball to, Mitchell there on the rollout because I'm pretty sure that's where the ball was designed to go, and like just let Mitchell take that hit or try to get to the goal line. Like this is North Dakota State. Like that play, like it felt like similar to that one play he had in North Dakota State where he like ran into guys and like pushed them over. Like this is the NFL now, bro. Like these guys are just as big as you are.
This like I get it. Like I went back and I watched Lance's film the other day. I get it. He does run up the middle, and he was really good at North Dakota State. But that was what people's concerns was, right? Because how well compared to FCS level, how will that translate to the NFL? That was most people, draft scouts and like Mel Kiper and all those guys' concerns. Like it's worse at the FCS level, fine. Because it's the FCS level. But it's not working in the NFL majority of the time. It's just not. And like, and one thing also, like, Kyle, like, you know how many dink and dunk passes you do for Jimmy Garoppolo? Like, you didn't do that many dink and dunks for Trey Lance. You just didn't.
Yeah, there wasn't any bootlegs. There wasn't a whole lot of Trey being able to get out of the pocket. And like, it's just like, yeah. It felt a lot like preseason, kind of in some ways, except they're running the ball with him a bit more. Like use his mobility, get him out on the edge. Like, and the fact that they couldn't run outside the numbers maybe affected that because it wouldn't maybe work as well. But I feel like you got to really just like stretch the defense out and make them play sideline to sideline. And I know you don't have Kittle in this game, but you still have Debo, and Ayuk's usage as well is annoying. The fact that he hasn't been getting
Ayuk. I feel Ayuk. I've been seeing everybody, like, especially people that have Ayuk on his fantasy team, right? They're like, bro, like, where's Ayuk? Like, what happened to Ayuk from last year to this year? And like before the season, like some Niners fans, including myself, like, Ayuk's gonna have his year. Ayuk's gonna have potential 1,000 yards.
I mean, that was
Ayuk's gonna have himself a year.
That was the consensus, was that like Ayuk was gonna be, he was gonna take over, this year. This is gonna be the year where he puts it all together. And especially for as much as Kyle, loved that pick, like he was super excited to get Brandon Ayuk, and now it's like
I remember if you watch the in call, like the on YouTube, I remember they posted like the call when they called Ayuk. He's like, we were gonna get you with our 13th pick, but there was another guy that we wanted, so they wanted to get Ayuk with the 13th pick, but Kinlaw was there.
Yeah, like this is a first round receiver. This is the highest you ever drafted receiver, and like you're treating him like he's just like another guy. Like you're throwing Mohamed Sanu and Travis Benjamin, who you just called up this week to play in over him. Like, why isn't Ayuk out there more? And why isn't he like a focal point in the game plan? Like, why?
Juice had more receptions. Juice had more yards than Ayuk did this game. Like,
yeah, and like the talent is there. Like, it's indisputable. Like, he's obviously like one of the most talented receivers on this team. I don't know. Like, that's where maybe the ego thing of Kyle, plays a factor. Like, I don't know what Ayuk is doing or has not done, for Kyle to feel like he has to do this, but it just feels a little over the top. And this little, I don't know if he's in the doghouse or it's just like I don't know what else to call it. I mean, normally it's the doghouse.
I don't think Ayuk is in his doghouse, because I remember this week he said Ayuk's time will come, but it's not right now. Like, I remember Kyle Shanahan saying that. Like,
it's like, yeah, like how does that mean?
Yeah, like, what does that mean? Did you not, like, last year both Debo, both Kittle were out. Ayuk was balling. Ayuk was the only guy that would have like 70 to 90-yard games. Like Ayuk was pretty much the only guy that Mullins or whoever was quarterback, Nick CJ Beathard, would target because he was the one who was finding the way to get open. He was the one who was making plays. Like this year, he's not even in a vocal point in your offense. Like that makes no sense to me, Kyle. Like you drafted him in the first round. He's not just another guy. He's not just another third round, fourth rounder that you could, not care about. He's your first round draft pick in 2020. He was your first round draft pick. Utilize him, Kyle. Utilize him more.
Yeah, it's just I feel like it's Debo or bust in this offense, and there wasn't a whole lot of Debo working in this game. I know he had the touchdown run
Yeah, but he
and a
dropped some
couple of
balls
nice
also.
catches.
Debo,
Yeah, he did
Debo
drop some
definitely
passes.
dropped some passes that should have been caught. Same thing with Sanu. That pass over the middle for third down, he should have caught that. Like, I get it was a wobbly pass, but you still should have caught that. And one thing I will say, right before the season, we all said that Robert Salah was a huge loss for us, and D'Amico Ryan's, how else is he gonna do? He's probably gonna have ups and downs. D'Amico Ryans, through the first 5 weeks, has been out coaching Kyle Shanahan. I thought Kyle Shanahan was a genius. Right? I thought Kyle Shanahan was a genius. D'Amico Ryans is out coaching Kyle Shanahan through the first 5 weeks. And I can say that confidently.
It's funny because that's the same thing as being said when Salah was here. Was that Salah's been is the coaching better than Shanahan, and obviously he's a coordinator, so it's a bit different. He's just focused on the defense and not the entire team. But at the same time, discipline hasn't been great. A lot of penalties for this team. Execution hasn't been great at times for this team. Offense, which I said was on the show with Jesse last week, is Kyle, like, offense shouldn't be like the worst part of the team ever with Kyle as the head coach. You think that will always be the best part of your team. Like, look at the Chiefs. Like, Andy Reid is the offensive mastermind, obviously. Offense will always
the funny thing about the Chiefs, like we said it before the show started, the Chiefs offense is good. The Chiefs defense isn't that good. The Chiefs defense is okay, but the offense is really good. With
it
the
makes
Niners,
sense because it makes sense because
flipped.
Reid is like your offensive mastermind, so it makes sense for offense to always be good. For Shanahan, like, your offense shouldn't be the weakness. The offense shouldn't be the issue with the team. The defense is the best part of this team. And Kyle, as you as an offensive guy, that really shouldn't be the case. It should be offense first, defense second. And if your defense is better than your offense, I mean, your offense should still be pretty good. And it just hasn't been. It's been very average. Even with, and I know this game is a bit different because it's Lance's first start, and there's a lot of things he's working through, and it's a work in progress. But even with Jimmy, it wasn't looking good either. And that's the guy you play over Trey because Trey wasn't ready, and Jimmy was ready to help this team win now, and that wasn't happening there either. You were 2-2 heading into this game. So either way, offense has been underperforming mightily, and it really shouldn't be the case. And just Kyle, not even like from a play calling standpoint, just as a decision maker, just with the Ayuk thing and just the way he sells packages, and then the fact that going to this game like 16 quarterback runs and only 10 or 11 for everybody else, it's like that doesn't feel like it's very. I know Trey's a good runner, but at the same time, it doesn't feel very smart in terms of like the team as a whole. And then also Kyle, like just in like situations where it's like that fourth down call with Juszczyk, the 4th and 2 call in the last game with Debo, not going for it in the Packer game at midfield, 4th and 1. Which now looking at his other 4th down calls, maybe it's a good thing they didn't go for it because he might not got it anyway. But just from that standpoint, there's a lot of question marks around Kyle, and I mean they got to turn around at some point because the fan base has turned. At this point, the fan base is no longer in his favor. He's no longer is on their good side. He's now back in the area where he's got to prove he's a good coach. And so far this season, he hasn't really done it.
Yep, and Kyle's not even the type of coach or type of person to go back and reflect and see what he did wrong. Like Kyle's like, this guy or that dude, didn't do what he was supposed to do. He's not the type of guy to reflect. Like I remember one time he was on the Peter Strager podcast, and they were talking about how the Super Bowl, he's like, people don't realize that I ran the football more in the second half than I did in the first half, yada, yada, yada. He never, like, actually said, I did this or that wrong or da, da, da. Like, Kyle isn't the type of person to reflect and look at his mistakes and say, I should have done this better or that better. Kyle's not the type of coach or the type of person to do that. He just isn't. He's arrogant. He's stubborn. And to answer your question, when is Kittle coming back? He's on IR, so he's going to be out for at least 3 games. So I
Yeah,
don't expect him to be back for the Colts game. I don't expect him to be back for at least another 3 games.
yeah, he can't play in the Colts or Bears game. We'll see after that, but he can't play in those 2 games coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So possibly Arizona, the second matchup against Arizona, we might see him. That will be the earliest he can come back is that Arizona game. So
Yeah, but one thing I will say is that I definitely expect us, or at least I need us to beat the Colts and the Bears. Because if you can't beat the Colts and the Bears, then we have some things to talk about, Kyle. Because
oh yeah, at that point in the season is practically over. You'll be at two
yeah,
and
right.
five.
Like I then we have some things like I get it. You lose to the Cardinals because they're 4-0. They have the best record in football. We understand it, but as much as we still have things that we didn't like as your play call, but still coming into the game, none of us expected the Niners to beat the Arizona Cardinals. But the defense did play a hell of a game. But if you can't beat a 1-3 Colts team and the Bears team, which with Matt Nagy and Bill Lazor and that team, I mean, then we have some things to talk about, Kyle. But before we get on out of here, the last question of the day. Do you think the 49ers should start training Niners for the rest of the season?
Absolutely. No doubt in my mind. No question about it. And I'm sure, and I know in this game, there's going to be a whole lot of, well, if Jimmy Garoppolo was playing, they would have won this game. And I know, Kyle's been, being,
Yeah. To the
non non
people,
non straightforward with the, just like, well, Jimmy's still our starter, or nothing has changed or anything like that. I don't expect Kyle to say anything until probably late 2 weeks from now, right before the game starts, when we have to know who's playing. But from now until then, I expect Jimmy to still be the quote unquote starter. But it should absolutely be Trey, because at this point, even everything I've been saying up until this point, it still rings true.
yeah.
It's not like you've been doing any better with Jimmy anyway. So why not just turn this into a
Mm-hmm.
develop Trey Lance season? You just focus on getting him better, giving him his reps, so that way next season you don't have to go through this, because even if he had sat for a full year, there's no guarantee he would have came out just guns a-blazing like Mahomes did. That's not like a regular thing. Like even Rodgers' first year after sitting for 3 years was like just an okay season. It wasn't like he was playing MVP level football. So you
Mahomes,
should let him play
Mahomes is
now.
just Mahomes. One of those guys that it
Yeah,
was one of those situations that you don't see that often, right? Seeing
you
a
don't see it
Mahomes or
ever.
a Herbert, you don't see those type of situations that often. You just don't. Like those are those are just some of those gems and some of those guys that you don't see that often. Rookies coming into the league and they're balling out. You just don't see it. Like with Tua, just for example, he's not necessarily balling out. It takes time for rookies to get better. And for the people that said Jimmy's gonna play better in this game, if Jimmy was playing, he would have won us the football game, or he would have played better. Did you not see how bad the offensive line played? Like he would have been killed behind that offensive line. Number one, number two, like do you not see? Did you not watch the Packers game? Did you not watch the Seattle game? Jimmy was Jimmy scoring points efficiently? Like no, he wasn't. The first half of that Packers game, Jimmy didn't score anything if it wasn't for that Trent Cannon return and that Trey Lance running touchdown. And same thing with the Seattle game. The defense goes and makes stops, and Jimmy wouldn't score points. Jimmy just couldn't score points. It would have been 3-and-out, 3-and-out, 3-and-out. I'm like, even with Jimmy today, it wouldn't have been a different game. The Niners would not have been up. The Niners would not have won the game with Jimmy under center. They just wouldn't. Even with Lance, like I get it, they didn't win with Lance, but they wouldn't have won with Jimmy anyways. Now I think they should start training Lance for the rest of the season because number one, the division is tough. You had the Cardinals were 5-0, and the Rams were also a 4-1 team. The Rams are also a really good team, so it's not likely that you make the playoffs. And I get it, it's 5 games, but you're not. It's not likely the Niners make the playoffs. Instead of playing Jimmy Garoppolo for the rest of the season, why not play Trey Lance? Why not develop him? Because it's not like you're going to make the playoffs this season. It's not like you're a Super Bowl team this season. To whoever thinks the Niners are a Super Bowl caliber team, they're not. They're not a Super Bowl caliber team. They're not even a playoff team this year. I'd be happy if they made the playoffs, but I don't expect them to make the playoffs. Like, I don't expect them to make the playoffs, and if they do make the playoffs, it'll be a wild card spot. But I still don't think that's likely. Like, considering how tough the division is, considering the way the Niners are playing right now, and Kyle Shanahan, all of those factors taken, I don't think the Niners are a playoff team. Why not start Trey Lance for the rest of the year so he gets better by playing and he develops? Like, to be honest, people that say Trey Lance he should sit on the sideline this year, like, he's only gonna get better by playing. You play him, he's gonna get better, and he should be more ready and more prepared. He should feel more comfortable going into next year. You sit him on the bench and you make him hold Jimmy Garoppolo's clipboard. That's not gonna get him better. That's not. You playing him will get him better and make him feel more confident and prepared for next year. But him holding Jimmy Garoppolo's clipboard isn't gonna make him substantially better for next year.
Yeah. So the thing is, okay, Jimmy has a better grasp on the offense and a better understanding of what Kyle wants right now. But at the same time, what's that really getting you? Nothing really, because your offense was still underperforming when he was out there. So why not, obviously, and just play Trey Lance, now, allow him to get that experience and develop and get better over time. And by a season's end, if you're still in the playoff race, and maybe you're going to be better off with a more seasoned, more experienced Trey Lance and whatever Jimmy Garoppolo gives you, because we saw what Jimmy gives you. That's not a whole lot. Like, a lot has to go right for Jimmy Garoppolo. A lot went wrong in this game, and Trey Lance was able to keep them in this game because of his legs, his ability to extend plays, even with him not knowing what I'm not going to say he doesn't know what he's doing out there, but him being, just a little off at times, maybe just not be able to find, your check down, or just making some ill-advised throws or ill-advised, decisions at times. But overall, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like you're punting on the season, because obviously, fans are like, oh, it's a Super Bowl team, and Jimmy needs to be playing, and but it's like, listen, this season, I know you brought all these vets back, and I know, obviously the goal was Super Bowl, but this team right now is not in the best position to do that. And you give yourself a chance if Trey Lance develops and makes his team better going forward, because of obviously a higher ceiling on offense, because his ability to run the football, and then hopefully at some point to use his arm. He's able to kind of just stretch the defense and make some plays down the field with his arm. But just this team has a higher ceiling if you play Lance now and allow him to get these rookie mistakes out the way and learn game after game, and then by a season's end to see what happens. But playing Jimmy the rest of the season, it's going to happen. You're probably looking at maybe a wild card berth at the best. That's probably the best you can do. And and at the worst, you probably miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
So if you have a chance to miss the playoffs, I'd rather miss the playoffs developing Trey than playing Jimmy.
Yeah, either way, like you said, like, I'd rather miss the playoffs with Trey developing than with playing Jimmy Garoppolo and missing the playoffs, because we already seen the first 2 weeks against good team. Like, Seattle wasn't a good defense. They were the worst defense coming into week 4, and we couldn't score points on them. Like that, I would rather play Trey and develop him. Like you said, I would rather have Trey and develop him and not make the playoffs than play Jimmy and miss the playoffs. Because I don't expect the Niners to make the playoffs. Whoever thinks the Niners are a playoff or Super Bowl caliber team, they're not. We've seen it the first 5 weeks. They're not. They're not as good as the Rams. They're not as good as the Cardinals. They're not a playoff team. Like, even if the Niners are 3rd seed this whole season, how many teams in the NFL history were the 3rd seed in a division and made the playoffs? Like, there's not that many. I don't even think there's one 3rd seed in the NFL history that made the playoffs.
Right now the Niners are back in last place in their division. So
yeah,
it won't stay like that because the Seattle is without Russ Wilson. I mean, I guess we'll see. But yeah, Trey needs to be starting going forward. We'll see what they decide to do. We have no idea until Kyle announces it what he'll do, because I can see him doing anything really. I can see him starting Trey, and I can see him also starting Jimmy. So I guess we'll see. But so the question about what is Jed thinking right now? Who knows? I don't know what Jed ever thinks about. So
I don't even see Jed. I don't ever see Jed even at practices or games. Like, I don't even know.
I guess the good thing right now is that he's not tweeting. So things are okay, I guess, on social media. but I don't think he's thinking anything too major. I think he knew what the deal was going in, and I'm sure the Niners are. This isn't what they wanted, but I'm sure that has some kind of talk about this is what could happen with this, Jimmy Garoppolo Trey Lance situation. Then seeing the injuries that happened to this team as well, I think it's understandable in some aspects. But this season is like a transition year. And I know there's gonna be a lot of people going to Kyle's head because of what's happening. I know there's a lot of questionable decisions, but to be honest, this year, I'm not saying he gets a pass, but I think that you kind of understand the circumstances, and the next year will be a better year to really judge Kyle, harshly and really hold him to everything that happens. But this year, it's just really an awkward situation that can be made better if they just name Kyle. Trade the starter going forward and just make the most of it. But this team, the circumstances, you brought a lot of guys back on 1-year deals. You still have Jimmy in the building. That's $20 million that you couldn't use on other areas of the team. So we'll see going forward next year when they can use that $20 million on some other areas of the team. And a lot of these rookies are another year under their belt and they're a bit better. Hopefully Aaron Banks is probably playing next year. Hopefully Ambry gets something going next year or something like that. Demo another year better. Just this things of that nature, and a lot of 1-year deals. So some guys will be gone. It'll probably be a fairly new looking roster next year. So this year it's just going to be a weird one. It's going to be a weird year. It's not going to be fun to watch.
There's definitely going to be some bumps.
There's going to be some promising moments.
Ups and downs. Yep.
Yeah, it's going to be some promising moments, some things that to like, and there's going to be a lot of things not to like either. And this year is just kind of like a bump in the road onto hopefully a brighter future.
Yep. Well, that basically wraps up this show. I appreciate everybody who was watching. And if you haven't already, go subscribe to Kobe's channel. The link is in the description. Go follow him on Twitter. The link is also in the description. Kobe's so close to 100 subscribers. He's like at 88.
Away, I think.
He's like at 88, 89, right? 88, 89, something like that. He's super close. Yeah. So if you're watching this video and you are not subscribed to Kobe's channel, go do it right now. The link is in the description. Go follow him on Twitter. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to the channel. Hit the video with a like. I appreciate everybody who is watching. And me and Kobe will see you next time. Peace.